Good morning. It is 8:03 a.m. on Wednesday, July 25th, 2012, and this meeting of the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority Board is now called to order. Ms. Rowe, are there any public comments? Item 3, adoption of the minutes for the CRRMA board meeting of June 13th, 2012.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Minutes are approved. Update and presentation from the America's Gateway Builders on Loop 375 at I-10, America's Interchange Project. Mr. Kramer, top of the morning to you.
Morning, Chairman McLaughlin, board members, and Mr. Case. My name is Willie Kramer. I'm the project manager for America Gateway Builders, building the America's Interchange Project. I'm here to give you an update.
Willie, just 1 second.
Yes, sir.
We're actually trying some new technology where we're going paperless with the board. Well, Raymond, will the presentation come up automatically on top of the agenda that's on the screen now, or do we got to do something?
Actually, you all have a couple of screens in front of you. One of them is your personal screens, which has the agendas. You should have a presentation screen as well, which shows the PowerPoint, I believe.
One's on top of the other. Oops.
Okay, I don't have the PowerPoint. All I've got is the CRRMA agenda.
We've got our IT folks that are going to help you.
Bill has two.
Willie, thanks for your patience.
I have plenty of it.
I got MSN. Got it.
All right, so in the future, this is how we hit it. We just will click here to council presentations. Super. Thank you. Willie, we are good to go. Thank you.
All right. Status, we currently have approximately 328 employees working on the site. To date, we've accumulated 381 work hours. We've had 3 recordable accidents to date and 1 lost time accident to date. All the design is complete. As far as utilities, all the master agreements are complete. We're still working with level 3 on assembly agreement. As far as relocations, all the infrastructure and the majority of the utilities are relocated into service with the exception of level 3 fiber splicing scheduled for next month, and the AT&T fiber splicing is in progress. Since last time, since February, I've just listed some of the milestones that the project's achieved from dating back to March all the way to July 20th. As you can see, once we got the utilities out of the way, it really opened up the project with the traffic switches on the frontage roads. That completed the drill shafts. Choctaw completed the steel girder placement, and we've also completed some concrete beam placements for at least 1 connector to date. Started on deck pours, so we've been progressing well. Construction progress, drill shafts are 100% complete, columns 97% complete, caps 83, concrete beams 75, steel girders 100%, MSE wall construction 44%, bridge decks 25%, drainage 75%, roadway 65. So overall, construction of the project is right at 68% complete, and we're scheduled with an on-time delivery. This is a photograph of a setup for a deck pour on a southbound and westbound connector. This is actually a photo of a deck pour. We do all the deck pours at night due to the weather conditions. And this is a photograph of the steel girder construction over Loop 375. This is another photo going over the northbound main lanes of 375. This is hard to see, but this was going over I-10 main lanes, eastbound, northbound, one of the longer girders. This one kind of gives you a sense of scale with these girders. The depths are right at 8 feet. So those are not midgets. There's grown men up there. And this is doing an air splice. Each beam is bolted together. Another shot of the eastbound, northbound girder erection going over I-10. This is also got an early start on a Sunday evening going over I-10. This photograph here is in the southwest quadrant showing the completion of the MSC wall for the eastbound, northbound approach. And across the road, you can see where the southbound, westbound is barely in the picture. It's complete as well. This is going further in the southwest quadrant, the structure work that we're currently working on to complete the eastbound, northbound connector, column and cap construction. This is in the southeast quadrant. This is the MSC wall, the approach for the northbound, westbound connector, going south to west. The MSC wall in the bottom of the picture, completion of the substructure through the steel girders. And that road right there is A&M Circle. This is just another angle of the same MSC wall construction. This wall here is probably close to 60% complete today. This is a photograph just south of Rojas in both the northeast and northwest quadrant. You can see it on the southbound, westbound connector. The deck's been poured all the way from the abutment all the way up to where that yellow iron across the deck is, through that gore area. And then on the eastbound, northbound, all the substructure is complete through the beams. This is a shot north of Rojas from the abutment, and shows the MSC wall construction for the approach of the southbound, westbound connector. And this is just an overall shot showing really the configuration of the interchange with the steel girders completed and most of the beams, and you can really get a good picture of how the interchange will look. Any questions?
Willie, do you, well, first off, great progress. I've talked to a couple of folks, some business people that work in that area and that pass through that interchange every day. And while they're not real happy with some of the traffic congestion that comes with progress, they are really quite amazed at how quickly this has come out of the ground and how it appears the last 6 months. So terrific job with that. Do you see any potential issues or delay in the next couple of months that potentially could be a problem with the January substantial completion date?
No.
Everything's right on track?
Yes, sir.
Any chance we're going to get this in early?
There could be a remote possibility. I'll be honest with you, we lost probably close to 5 to 6 work days on steel girder erection, which I hadn't counted on. Both strong winds and actually rain, believe it or not. And even last night we had a deck pour scheduled, and we postponed it due to the rain last night. So, I mean, it's great to get the rain. I know everyone in El Paso loves the rain, but there's some things out there that we don't have control of, and that's one of them is the weather. I think we're in a good position with all our delivery of commodities. We've managed all the deliveries of the beams and the wall panels and the deck panels to where we're out ahead on the materials. So I don't see transportation issues hurting us at this point. So I think there is a possibility, Scott.
That's good news. Questions from the board?
Just who took the pictures, from plane or helicopter or what?
It's a plane, and it's a local firm. I don't really remember their name. Hardoff.
Yeah, no problem. Nice.
Rosario, any questions? Willie, thank you for your excellent work, and thanks to AGB for really bring in an excellent project, and we're close to the finish line. We can see it, so thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Item 5, presentation by the Texas Transportation Institute on the assessment of municipal and county transportation reinvestment zones within El Paso County.
Mr. Chair, today we have with us Texas Transportation Institute. Mr. Bujanda is going to give a presentation. And just by way of background, I wanted to talk a little bit about this item and the very next item, number 6, as they're related. Some time ago, the chairman of the El Paso Metropolitan Planning Organization, Representative Pickett, requested that the MPO actually bring the TTI group, Texas Transportation Institute group, on board to identify potential funding streams through transportation reinvestment zones for various proposed projects in East El Paso. So what you have before you here as item number 5 is TTI's basically a PowerPoint breaking down TTI's report. The report is just about to go final, and once it does, of course, I'll share it with you all, and with their permission and the MPO's permission, of course, since they funded it, we'll post it on our website. So with that, Mr. Bujanda is going to provide some details on the report.
Good morning, Board. My name is Arturo Bujanda. I'm with Texas Transportation Institute. This morning I'm going to talk about the Transportation Reinvestment Zone financing potential for multiple jurisdictions within the El Paso County. Actually, the project we just saw was funded with TRC monies, and we did a study also for the city of El Paso. Senate Bill 1266 was passed in 2007, which provides a legal basis for setting up transportation reinvestment zones, or TRCs. TRCs facilitate value capture of the tax increment from a future transportation project. An innovative financing tool, value capture leverage real estate potential due to urban asset investments. To facilitate TRC implementation, TTI, sponsored by the Texas Department of Transportation and the Federal Highway Administration, conducted in 2010 a research project that promoted ways to understand and implement transportation investment zones. To facilitate TRC development, TTI developed standardized methods of screening TRC projects to actually develop and implement TRCs and evaluate the revenue potential. However, House Bill 563 passed in the 82 legislative session in 2011 and introduced significant changes on the law governing transportation investment zones. Because of these challenges, the El Paso MPO requested TTI to assist in the development of revenue feasibility implications for proposed TRCs in light of these legislative changes. The MPO requested TTI to assess revenue potential for 3 jurisdictions, which is the El Paso County, the City of Socorro, and Horizon City.
Mr. Bujanda, can I have you manage the PowerPoint?
Thank you, Remy.
Our agenda includes 2 broad topics: the study background and objectives, and the revenue potential analysis. The objectives of our study were twofold. The first is to determine the financing potential for municipal and county TRCs, and the second one to document screening, assessment, and implementation challenges associated with the new legislation. This is a summary of the legislative changes from the 2007 Act to the 2011 one. And the ones that are, the main difference are that originally only real property was supposed to be included within a TRC. The new legislation allows now to include the sales tax component, also captured from the increase in the amount of traffic. However, this requires a pass-through agreement component with the Texas Department of Transportation. Municipal TRCs required 100% of the annual tax increment to be set aside to a dedicated tax account or value capture account. The new legislation allows leaves that to the discretion of the municipality. So now a municipality can designate the percentage that is going to be captured. And for county TRCs, originally the creation of a road utility district was mandated. Now any tax abatement or other form of tax relief agreements can be set up to capture or to set up a TRC to pay for a project. The value capture mechanism, how it works is basically you designate your base year, or you designate a contiguous zone around a planned transportation improvement, and you freeze the tax base within that zone, and any capture or any increase in property values over and above such base in future years is captured and is set up into a dedicated tax account. And that increase in property values then multiplied by the tax rate of the jurisdiction where the TRC is implemented, and that's the amount of revenue or the main component of the cash flow. At the end of the TRC, any surplus fund go to the general obligation fund in the case of a city, or to the county fund. The 8 projects for consideration for our study are basically illustrated in the next slide. So it includes 8 main corridors, which Berryville Street, Pelicano Drive, Rojas Drive, East Lake Boulevard, Old Hueco Tanks, Moon Road, Socorro Road, and Vineyard Road. And the project costs were obtained from the El Paso MPO. As you see there, all these are major scale projects or major improvements. And there you see a map. We split our study in 2 main corridors, 2 broad corridors, TRC Corridor 1 and TRC Corridor 2. TRC Corridor 2 pertains only to the city of Socorro jurisdictional limits. Our methodology incorporates, well, TRCs are nothing new. It's a concept that has been around for quite several years. What is innovative from our methodology is that we use basically computer technology, geographic information systems, and we merge the cadastral database with a financial model to create our discounted cash flow model. And we classified parcels in 4 broad categories: commercial, industrial, residential, agricultural, and totally exempt parcels. There you see in blue the TRC corridor number 1, and in green the TRC corridor number 2 for the 1 mile buffer. And that is 1 mile from the center line to each side of the corridor. That's the half-mile corridor. And that's the quarter-mile buffer. What you saw is pertaining to the jurisdiction of the El Paso County. And there you have the TRCs for the jurisdictions of the city of Horizon in pink for the 1 mile buffer, and for the city of Socorro in blue and green, also for the 1 mile. And then the same information for the half-mile buffer and the quarter-mile buffer. We created 3 probabilistic scenarios: the base case, the pessimistic, and the optimistic. And we report also mean values and standard deviations. And all our data comes from 3 main sources, which is the reports from the El Paso County to the state controllers, databases from EPCAD, and we use case studies as well. We model 2 general scenarios or 2 general conditions for land uses. The scenario number 1 implies that there is no ownership change from government-owned parcels to private uses. And this has implications pertaining to the value capture. Public land is not taxed, is exempt, hence it doesn't generate any revenue. And scenario number 2 assumes that there is an ownership change, or that the government sells parcels to private uses, and those parcels become taxable and create revenue for additional revenue stream. So bottom line, scenario number 1 is more conservative, and scenario number 2 is a little more aggressive. TRC revenues considered include 3 main sources: revenues from existing development, buildings that are already in place; new development, that is vacant land that turns into developed; and vacant land that remains vacant for the 30 years of our study. We use a discount rate of 5%, and we provide also undiscounted cash flows. Our base year is we obtained the database from EPCAD on, I believe, on on May 2012. However, the tax roll is certified only for 2011. So that's the most recent available information that we were able to obtain.
So Arturo, if the agreements are all signed by the end of the year, is the base year going to be 2011 or 2012?
2012.
Okay, thank you.
It's just that the certified value or the values are only certified until 2011, but the cut of the roll is 2012. We use the 2000, and there's a typo there. We use the 2012 tax rates, which are 31 cents for the El Paso County, 31 cents for Horizon City, and 49 cents for the city of Socorro. The pending issues, the jurisdictions will have to agree in the percentage that the new legislation now allows them to set aside. Our modeling assumes that 100% of the increment will go to the dedicated account. And these are the results. These are discounted values for scenario number 1.
Another question, Arturo. Is there much public land in the TRZ sections you were looking at? So were there significant, was that a significant component of the overall TRZs, or is it only a small component, the exempt property?
Well,
You'll let Raymond know. It was just a question that I had, because you looked at a couple different scenarios. I guess one was public land stays public, and then another one, public land converts to private, and then all of a sudden becomes eligible for the TRZ valuation or increase in property tax. So go ahead.
The short answer is that depends on the size of the buffer. To give you an example, for TRC number 1, for the half-mile buffer, we're talking about 4,488 acres. So that's quite significant, and it depends on the size of the buffer. And all that information will be, even though it's not in this PowerPoint, it will be on our final report. So for the 1 mile, the El Paso County is expected to generate 96.5 million, the city of Horizon 10.6 million, and the city of Socorro 18.2. For the half-mile buffer, the El Paso County revenue adds up to 55.3 million, 4.6 for Horizon, and 11.5 for Socorro. And the quarter mile, the total adds to 44.9 million, which is not enough to fund the 8 projects that we saw, the 60 million that the MPO requires. So we're recommending the half-mile buffer for all jurisdictions under scenario number 1, which adds up to 71.4 million. And this is again on our most conservative scenario. And scenario 2 shows the same result, and it gives a bump of around 20% for all buffers. As you see there, the 71 million increased to 90.6. That's those graphs show the contribution per jurisdiction. I would suggest to focus on scenario number 1, and the proportions remain about the same. 76% of the revenue is expected to come from the El Paso County, about 16 or 15% from the city of Socorro, and Horizon City is the jurisdiction that contributes the less to the TRC, with around 8% on average. With that, I'll open to any questions.
On the slide before, this one, the cost of the project is about 60 million, right?
Yes, sir.
So theoretically, if you go with the slide here, the quarter mile would generate 63.2.
Yes, that's under our most aggressive assumptions.
Right, okay, but you're recommending scenario, the half-mile buffer, right?
Yes, well, on these type of projects, what it happens usually, you set up your TRC, and then after 5 years, you conduct an assessment again to see how the cash flows are performing. And then if at that time it's needed an adjustment to the parcels, then you can go ahead and readjust your buffers. In the case, for example, of the City of El Paso TRC, which was used for the Americas interchange, originally we started with a 1 mile buffer, which was quite big, but it was the time of the real estate bubble, the Lehman Brothers recession or problems. So we were very conservative at the time of implementation. Later on, when 2 years of capture passed, then we went ahead and decreased the size of the buffers because the TRC was actually outperforming. So I guess you can start with, now the new legislation also allows to add parcels to the TRC.
Okay, so you can shrink and expand.
Correct. No, you can expand, but you cannot shrink. So if you designate a half mile buffer, you cannot go and make it a quarter mile.
Oh, really?
Unless you dissolve your TRC, your ordinance, and then go ahead and start the process again too. But I believe once the jurisdiction commits the revenue or issues an obligation, then the TRC cannot be dissolved until that debt is fulfilled.
Arturo, excuse me. Did you say that we've decreased the size of the TRZ for the Americas interchange?
For the whole City of El Paso, yes. We conducted, originally was a single TRC. And what happened with those TRCs, there were several issues. That was the first TRC in the state of Texas. So basically we were the guinea pigs of the new legislation at the time. The TRC number 1 went through Fort Bliss, and that's a break of continuity. The House bill requires that the TRC is a contiguous zone. So you cannot break the corridor, you cannot break the contiguity unless you designate 2 separate TRCs. So TRC number 1 crossed through the loop 375 and grabbed parcels that belong to Fort Bliss. So that broke the contiguity. And also the revenue that was generating was significant, was well above our original estimates.
But I didn't think we could go down. I thought we could only increase.
What happened is the City of El Paso, well, at the time the legislation didn't allow any modification on the size of the buffer. So what the City of El Paso did, they basically dissolved the TRC number 1. They canceled the ordinance, and then they started the process again, and then they implemented two separate TRCs, TRC number 2 and TRC number 3. And now we didn't include the portion that belonged to Fort Bliss. And at the time, we took advantage to decrease the size of the buffer.
Thank you.
Arturo, I had a quick question for you. Obviously, I'm familiar with the municipal TRZs. As the county is going to be putting in the largest portion of revenue through their TRZ, which is a county TRZ, there appears to be some tweaks between the county TRZs and the municipal TRZs. Can you explain really what the main difference between those are in regards to the county TRZ versus municipal?
Well, basically, municipal TRCs now they allow the bill, Senate Bill 563, I'm sorry, now gives the discretion to each municipality to negotiate with other entities the percentage of the value capture that's going to go to the designated account. And the county TRC has to establish a tax abatement or other form of tax relief agreement to pledge the portion of the value capture increment. Also, the county has the choice to pay for the project, creating a road utility district as well. and that's not mandated for the municipal TRCs.
So the county could create a road utility district themselves in order to finance a project
Yes, sir, through a TRC money,
with TRZ money?
correct. And the municipality, the main difference, and the county too, is that now if the component from the sales tax increment is set up, then the municipality needs to establish a pass-through agreement with Texas.
Correct, and you're no longer required to do that on a strictly straight property tax increment, correct?
Correct, sir.
Good, helpful. I really like this slide in regards to the new difference in the legislation from the previous TRZs to new. That was very helpful. Any other questions? Arturo, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Item 6, discussion and action on a board resolution authorizing the executive director to execute a memorandum of understanding regarding the potential implementation of transportation reinvestment zones and the design and construction of various transportation projects with any or all of the following: the County of El Paso, the Town of Horizon City, and the City of Socorro. Mr. Tejas?
So as I mentioned, as we began the presentation for item number 5, the El Paso Metropolitan Planning Organization requested the completion of this report so that the County of El Paso, the City of Socorro, and Town of Horizon City could all evaluate whether or not they wanted to pursue the development of transportation reinvestment zones for the pursuit of the specific project listed within the report that TTI just provided. As the initial results of the report were presented from the MPO to the parties, to Horizon, Socorro, and the county, they all expressed an interest in pursuing the development of TRZs and the pursuit of certain of those 8 projects. At that time, because the Camino Real RMA is really the only entity in the state that has assisted with the development of transportation reinvestment zones and then eventually issued debt and actually begun projects from TRZ increment, they asked for, and we offered, and they asked for assistance in creation of these potential TRZs before the end of the calendar year. So what you see before you is item number 6 is a memorandum of understanding between the parties, between the RMA, City of Socorro, Town of Horizon City, and El Paso County, that really outlines what assistance the RMA would provide and how this would work. Really, in essence, what we're looking to do is, and actually I should mention as well, as you know, we brought on as a consultant not too long ago Terry Quesada, who, while at the city, actually created the first TRZ as well as the second and the third TRZ. So we've got the experience from the creation of the TRZs all the way through the issuing of debt and actual construction of projects from TRZ increments. So we believe we have the expertise to assist these folks with the development of their potential TRZs. So again, what you see before you is a memorandum of understanding between the parties, and we've structured it in a way that allows us flexibility as the county and Horizon and Socorro determine whether or not they really want to go through with this. We've drafted it so that we have that flexibility to provide the assistance that they need to make those decisions. So part of the decision-making will include, and the first step, in fact, that we've told Horizon, Socorro, and the county is they need to identify the projects that they want to fund. From there, we will help them in identifying the width of their potential TRZs as well as identifying the parcel identification numbers, and then thereafter we will actually even draft the initial ordinances that they'll need to adopt. So we're providing this as an assistant. We're providing this assistance to these parties as we are, of course, the regional mobility authority. So we're providing assistance for transportation projects in the region. So we're excited about the partnership. I think it's going to be interesting and very fun. So with that in mind, subject to your questions, that's all I have for this item.
You've made this presentation between the 3 municipalities, the 2 municipalities in the county already?
TTI has made this presentation to Horizon and Socorro and the MPO. I don't think they've made it to the county. In fact, I think we're set to meet with the county in early August.
What's been the reception?
All of them have been very positive. In fact, Horizon at their council meeting said, let's move forward quickly. In fact, I believe that they're looking to adopt or approve this MOU as early as next week, if I remember correctly. Socorro expressed interest, and I've shared this MOU with their city manager, and they're looking to move forward as well. The county, from the staff level and from initial discussions with the county judge as well as Commissioner Chosette, seem to be interested as well. So we're all moving forward.
And I think the nice thing about how the MOU is drafted, we can really proceed forward with all or any of the projects up to the 60 million different pieces. It's fairly flexible and really depending on what the various entities are looking for. Raymond, what has to be signed or what has to be done in order to make the tax year, the base 2012? What has to be completed and in place by what time for that?
The two cities, Socorro and Horizon, have to adopt ordinances before the end of calendar year 2012, and that will set the base year. The county actually does essentially the same act, but it's done through an order since they don't have ordinance-making authority. So as long as the TRZs are created by either ordinance or order before the end of the calendar year, then the base year is set as 2012.
And this is a great project for us as we go out and work with our regional partners to show them what we can do, our expertise with the TRZs, working with our GEC on the design, managing the construction, really the whole process. So I'm personally very excited about this project. Raymond, I appreciate all your hard work on this.
Absolutely.
Any other questions from the board?
Move to approve?
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Item 7, discussion and action on a board resolution authorizing the executive director to execute a memorandum of understanding with the City of El Paso and Geltmore Aldea LLC regarding the proposed development of an overpass, frontage roads, and related improvements in the vicinity of Interstate 10, Mesa Street, and Executive Center Boulevard. Mr. Tejas?
This one, unfortunately, I'm going to ask for you all to delete. This is a memorandum of understanding between the parties mentioned by the chair that really would, in essence, develop the framework by which we would all work together to complete the Mesa Park overpass that we've discussed in the past. Unfortunately, we don't have that MOU signed off on by the developer of the city just yet. I think we're very close, but I'm going to ask for this item to be deleted.
So there's a separate MOU between the developer and the City of El Paso?
Actually, this is the one MOU between the three parties, and I'm asking that it be deleted for now while we work out the final points with the city and the developer. I'd mention also that we are moving forward with a different concept, which really is what is pushing this. The different concept is the way that the city would provide its contribution, and that's being finalized in a separate agreement between the RMA and the city as well. And we believe that we can have that ready for the next agenda, the next RMA board meeting, at which point we would bring the MOU and that agreement with the city.
Move to delete.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Item 7 is deleted. Item 8, presentation and discussion and action on the potential appointment of the CRRMA to the El Paso Metropolitan Planning Organization's Transportation Project Advisory Committee, TPAC. Mr. Tejas?
On this item, I may have mentioned this to some of you all. At a fairly recent executive committee meeting of the El Paso Metropolitan Planning Organization, the question arose as to whether or not the Camino Real RMA should have representation on the MPO, and if so, at what level. At that executive committee meeting, which is chaired by the county judge, the judge asked me directly if the board would be interested, the Camino Real RMA board would be interested in participating at the Transportation Project Advisory Committee level. So with that as the backdrop, I've asked Ms. Quesada to kind of give you some detail on the MPO, how it operates, the organizational structure, and really develop a recommendation for whether or not this board should ask for membership along on the Transportation Project Advisory Committee. So with that, Ms. Quesada.
And Raymond, this is a staff position, right, on the TPAC, so it's mainly staff from the various entities. So in this particular case, this would be you would be on the TPAC should we decide to move forward. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Ms. Quesada, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. Terry Quesada, consultant to the RMA. Sorry, it's been a while since I've been here. I think Mr. Diaz has provided the background to the board as to the consideration before you today. What we want to do is highlight some of the functions of the MPO, introduce the policy and advisory committees at the MPO, and summarize their main responsibilities as well as recommending an action for the board. Well, I'm sorry, could I get some assistance from? I'm sorry, board, I appreciate your patience. Metropolitan planning organizations are established by federal mandate. They're responsible for regional transportation planning in urban areas, and that planning includes both the long-term plans, which was a pool of projects from which the TTI, for example, pulled those projects for their analysis of the TRZ, as well as a short-term plan. That's a transportation improvement program. That's about a 4 to 5 year program that includes specific funding sources and specific program years for implementation of transportation projects. The El Paso MPO's specific goal is, as indicated, to accomplish regional planning and programming under one voice that provides the greatest benefit while at the same time reflecting the concerns of the community. The El Paso MPO is one of the few multi-state MPOs in the country, and because we are in a non-attainment area, one of the other concerns that the MPO has to manage in developing the long-term and short-term plans is air quality analysis. The Transportation Policy Board has 2 subcommittees that are responsible for making recommendations to it. That's the Executive Committee and the newly created Mobility Committee. The Mobility Committee is made up of the small community mayors. They were just created in July of this year, and they're to make recommendations as to transportation projects outside of the El Paso area, El Paso City area. The Executive Committee is chaired by the Vice Chair of the El Paso MPO and makes recommendations on business aspects of the MPO.
Chair, who's that? Who's the vice chair?
The Vice Chair right now is Judge Escobar.
Who's the chair?
The Chair is Representative Pickett.
Great.
The Transportation Project Advisory Committee, as the Chair indicated, is staffed by staff of the participating agencies. And their primary responsibility is to look at the various programming and funding plans for regionally significant projects. Most of the members are staff from the agencies, but not all the agencies that are on the TPAC are represented at the policy board level. The voting members of the TPAC include the City of El Paso with 3 members. TxDOT also has 3 members. The various smaller communities have 1 voting member apiece. You will notice that Fort Bliss, the El Paso Water Utilities, and UT El Paso have voting members, yet they do not have representation on the policy board.
So do all the projects that are going to go to the policy board have to go through the TPAC first?
Yes.
And they have to be voted through the TPAC?
Yes. Now, they make recommendations. They do not set the policy that goes before the board, and they're the final authority. But just about any funding category that opens up, those projects are worked through the Project Advisory Committee and then recommended to the policy board. The CRRMA's involvement at the MPO would benefit the region because a major transportation agency would be included in all the planning, programming, and funding discussions. And the benefits to the RMA is that it would allow the RMA to participate in project development plans and consider projects for implementation. So it's mutually beneficial. The recommendation that we're making to the board is that you take formal action to request to the Transportation Policy Board that the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority be added as a voting member of the Transportation Project Advisory Committee. And subject to your questions. That concludes my presentation.
So moved. I can't see any reason why not.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Ms. Quezada, thank you for the excellent update. Nice to
Thank you for it.
meet you. I've heard many good things about you from Raymond, and we're excited to have you on the team, so thank you.
Thank you.
Raymond, was there anything else that you wanted to add?
No, sir. No.
Item 9, update, discussion, and action on the following CRRMA procurements. A, selection of a systems integrator for Loop 375 Cesar Chavez Border Highway Managed Lanes Project. B, selection of a firm to provide the environmental and preliminary engineering necessary for the Loop 375 Americas Avenue Managed Lanes Project. And C, selection process for supplementing the CRRMA's general engineering consultant team. Mr. Tejas?
For item number 9, I just wanted to provide a brief update. As you know, we have several procurements out or about to go out, so I wanted to brief you all on each of those. So item 9A deals with the Chavez, the Cesar Chavez Managed Lanes Project, and really what we're looking for there is a systems integrator which would be responsible for the design, construction, and eventual maintenance of the tolling system that would be placed on the Cesar Chavez portion of Loop 375. That procurement will actually be a request for proposals, an RFP. That RFP is currently scheduled for release on August 1st, next week, which would mean that the responses would be due September 13th. So we're moving forward on that, and we've posted notice in the Texas Register. We will also post notice in the El Paso Times, and of course with all of the local engineering groups and the chambers of commerce as well.
I thought it was interesting that I guess we're posting the RFP on our website to pull down, and we've notified the parties if they're interested, go to the website, check it, and then pull the RFP down and respond.
That's right. In fact, we originally did that with the Americas interchange, and it worked, I think, extremely well for us. And we are doing that, in fact, with 9B, which I'll go into next, which is the Americas Managed Lanes procurement. On that one, as you know, the Americas Managed Lanes ties into Cesar Chavez and then eventually heads up to the I-10 corridor at the Americas interchange. What we're looking for in that particular procurement is an engineering firm, actually, an engineering team to environmental and preliminary engineering services for essentially the development of the schematic phase for the project. That one, what we've done is the exact same thing. We in fact have posted that on our website, and yes, sir.
This page we're looking at, it's got is this on a state board or something? Texas Register.
That's the Texas Register, and we provided notices to the Texas Register so that it goes out on a statewide level. We've provided both for the Chavez Integrator procurement as well as the Americas Managed Lanes procurement. So we use that to really get out to the public. Beyond that, not only the Texas Register on the Americas Managed Lanes, I've sent them personally to the local presidents of the CEC, the TSP, all of the engineering consulting groups, professional associations. I've sent them personally to those presidents, and they've sent it out to their memberships. We have sent it out through our email list. We posted it on our website. We've posted on the Texas Register. We've also shared this with the Chambers of Commerce. So we believe we've gotten it out there as much as we possibly can. And in fact, for the Americas Managed Lanes, we have a period within the procurement that has a question and answer phase where folks that are interested in reviewing this can send us questions. That period closed yesterday, and we received, I believe, a total of 7 or 8 questions. So there is some back and forth. So it's been good to see that interest.
And hopefully, with we'll see a large local response on that project.
That's right. Hopefully, I mean we've done a lot of outreach here locally. Beyond that, we have points within the procurement for local knowledge and understanding. So we're hopeful that goes a long way. Beyond that, in terms of the timeline for the Americas Managed Lanes, that one, because we are procuring engineering services, we have to go in a 2-step where we actually do the request for qualifications first and then the request for proposals after that. So in terms of timeline, the RFQ, the request for qualifications, was issued on July 11th. Submittals are due on August 2nd. And we hope to bring forward a short list for this board's approval at the August meeting. So we're moving very quickly on that phase. The second phase will be the request for proposals, where we intend to issue somewhere in early to mid-September, and with those submittals due in early October, with eventually the selection in late October. So that's our proposed timeline for that procurement as well.
And we've received the money, or have access to the money for the, basically the environmental and schematic, and then we'll have to go back for the second tranche for basically project completion, which is about $37 million. Is that correct, Mr. Taylor?
Well, correct, but to muddy the waters a little bit further, the money that we're using for this procurement is actually from our original financial assistance agreement with TxDOT. Once we get to a point where we're ready to select and actually bring somebody on board to do the environmental and the preliminary engineering, we're in that process right now to request an additional $1.3 million from TxDOT. And in fact, I'm going to the Transportation Commission meeting tomorrow for preliminary approval for that $1.3 million. That'll allow us to get to that next step. And then the chair is correct that the third step will include a separate request to TxDOT for the actual design and construction dollars.
And that basically will take the managed lanes, 6.7 miles, whatever it is, up to the terminus as Americus. We're not quite sure if it's south of Americus, if it's north of Americus. That's still all being evaluated. Take it from there and connect it seamlessly into the managed lanes currently being constructed at Cesar Chavez. So
that's correct. So Chavez has about 9 miles, and America's managed lanes somewhere in the range of 6 miles. So at the end of these two, we'll have 15 miles of managed lanes. Well, the Chavez project is currently scheduled for completion of the managed lane and the general purpose lanes for sometime in early next year, March, April timeframe is what the developer is saying. However, then we come in and we have our integrator will be on board by then. They will have hopefully designed everything, and then they'll pick up in March or April of next year to actually implement the tolling equipment. So sometime late next year, we could have managed lanes open in El Paso.
excellent.
So, and one final note on the request for qualifications, request for proposals on the America's Managed Lanes. We're actually utilizing as our evaluation team 3 different individuals. We're using an engineering manager out of the Central Texas Regional Mobility Authority who's agreed to assist us in this project. We're using an assistant city engineer from here in El Paso, and also the public works director from the county of El Paso. So we're using 2 local folks and one from an agency just like ours out of Austin. So that takes us to item 9C. This is just a very brief update for you all. I know that we've discussed on a number of occasions the possibility of expanding our general engineering consultant team and how we would do that. What I'm currently developing is an approach to actually formalize that process. So by way of example, as you know, we've received a number of high priority, very fast-paced projects in recent times, and then we've had to rely specifically on our general engineering consultant to complete those projects. So the question was raised, how do we supplement the GEC team so that we could bring in additional engineers to complete that work? So what I'm currently developing is a process which would essentially be an expedited procurement process to supplement that team, where in general terms, and really what I'm doing here for you all is an update, and from here I'll sit down with the professional engineering consultant teams, or I'm sorry, the professional organizations here in town, the CEC, the TSPE, and the other folks, to make sure that they're, or at least explain our thinking and make sure they're comfortable with our approach. Essentially what we'll do is an expedited procurement process where the RMA will essentially have a pre-approved group by discipline of engineering firms. So by way of example, we'll have geotech as a discipline. Within that geotech discipline, we will have pre-approved Team X, Team Y, and Team Z. So once a project actually comes down the pike and we have to move it quickly and we want to utilize our GEC team, then we will select somebody from that pre-approved group and move forward very quickly through our GEC team.
This is a way that we can utilize, get more local engineers involved, as we have a number of projects that seem to, here lately, have come very quickly. And it's also a selection process, correct me if I'm wrong, Raymond, that the city uses. The city has a number of pre-approved engineers that they can reach out to as various projects come on board. So it's similar to how the city manages their process, correct?
That's correct. We're doing it a little bit differently because our pre-approved process would actually supplement the general engineering consultant. So that's a little bit unique. But the underlying concept of doing pre-approvals and quick selections, project-based selections, really was at the request of the local professional groups. So I think we're in line with what they're looking for. That coupled with the fact that we've added points for local understanding and local knowledge in our current RFQs. I think we're trying to be responsive to the professional engineering groups here in town, and I'm hopeful that we're doing that. So the next step, subject to your questions or concerns, would be for me to set up meetings with the CEC, the TSP, and the local groups to make sure that they understand what we're proposing and make sure that they're comfortable with it.
And Raymond, to be clear, if our intent is to actually increase that participation, this is not just an exercise in adding people to something that's not going to happen, right?
That's absolutely correct. One of the concerns that we originally had, and in fact why we were originally a little bit hesitant to pursue this approach, was the original request was to essentially do this for what I understood is essentially a second GEC team, and that didn't make a lot of sense to me. Doing it this way to supplement the GEC team makes sense, and I think it works with what they're requesting, but we'll wait to see.
And the GEC is on board, right?
Yes, sir.
I think we've utilized this somewhat preliminarily with the Spur 1966. I believe they've reached out to some local firms to do some of the work that's required on that spur as that project is currently, the development and design and engineering is underway, correct?
That's correct.
So it would basically work the same way, that we have a project that comes on board. We need expertise. We've got a number of firms that have that expertise. We reach out to that firm and utilize them as needed.
Right, and really one of the main points of this is that one of the complaints that I had heard was that this process wasn't formalized and it was left entirely in the hands of the general engineering consultant. This process will formalize it. Everybody will understand it at the front end, and ultimately the board will actually take the action to bring on that team to supplement the GEC. So I think we've addressed the concerns.
What's the timeline for the adding the incremental firms to this list?
It should not be long. Really, the intent is to have a very expedited process. So what we would do is what would take a little bit of time is really evaluating all the statements of qualifications, the initial part to get the pre-approved. The second step, which is essentially sending out a notice to those folks in the pre-approved groups, telling them this is the project, let us know if you're interested. That shouldn't take very long at all.
And we'll see the final list, correct?
Yes, sir. You'll see the list with the development of the recommendation as to who should be brought on.
And lastly, the GEC is committed to a regular update of how dollars are being spent and how much of that is a local component. So we will basically see how effective we are with that, as well as the local engineering community moving forward based on those presentations. So
Correct.
excellent. Is any action required here, Mr. Tejas?
No, sir.
Good. Item 10, discussion and action on a board resolution approving the executive director's annual performance evaluation, authorizing the CRRMA chair to communicate the results of the evaluation to the city of El Paso and take other actions as necessary. As this is a personnel matter, I've got the review with me that the vice chair and I have sat down with Mr. Tejas. I'd like to ask for a motion to retire to executive session.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. We will retire to executive session to review the evaluation, and we'll be right back. Thank you. Is 9:17 a.m. on July 25th, 2012, and I'm asking for a motion to come out of executive session and reconvene.
moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? We are back in session. The board discussed the evaluation. Those results have been communicated to Mr. Tejas, and it will follow as per the employment agreement that we currently have with Mr. Tejas. So is there a motion to approve the executive director's annual performance evaluation and authorizing the chair to communicate the results to the evaluation of this to the city of El Paso and take other actions as necessary?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. And I believe that may be it. Mr. Tejas, is there any other items that we have pending?
I have none.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? At 9:19 a.m. on Wednesday, July 25th, we are adjourned.
What a machine. What a machine.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.